Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S5 5078, The Call of the Wild by Jack London. Chapter 3, The Wild Animal. The wild animal was strong. It bucked, and as it traveled across the snow, it grew stronger and stronger. And as Buck grew stronger, he hated speech more and more, although he was careful never to start a fight. But speech was always showing his teeth to Buck, trying to start a fight. And Buck knew that if he and Spitz fought, one of them would die. The fight almost happened one night, and they stopped by Lake Leverage. There was heavy snow and it was very cold. The lake was frozen, and Francois, apparelled, and the dogs had to spend the night on the ice under a big rock. Buck had made a warm hole in the snow and was sorry to leave it to get his piece of fish, but when he had eaten and returned to his hole, he found Spitz in it. Buck had tried not to fight Spitz before, but this was too much. He attacked him angrily. Spitz was surprised. He knew Buck was big, but he didn't know he was so wild. Francois was surprised too, and guessed why Buck was angry. Go on, Buck, he shouted. Fight him, the dirty thief. Spitz was also ready to fight, and the two dogs circled one another, looking for the chance to jump in. But suddenly there was a shout from Perrault, and they saw 80 or 100 dogs around the sledge. The dogs came from an Indian village, and they were searching for the food that they could smell on the sledge. The Perrault and Francois tried to fight them off with their clubs, but the dogs, made crazy by the smell of the food, showed the teeth and fought back. Buck had never seen dogs like these. They were all skin and bone, but hunger made them fight like a wild thing. Three of them attacked Buck, and in a second his head and legs were badly bitten. Dave and Solak stood side by side, covered in blood, fighting bravely. Joe and Pike jumped on one dog, and Pike broke its neck with one bite. Buck caught another dog by the neck and tasted blood. He threw himself on the next one, and then felt teeth in his own neck. It was Spitz, attacking him from the side. Perrault and Francois came to help with clubs, but then they had to run back to save the food. It was safer for the 9 sledge dogs to run away across the lake. Several of them were badly hurt. They spent an unhappy night hiding among the trees. At first light, they returned to the sledge and found Perrault and Francois tired and angry. Half the food was gone. The Indian dogs had even eaten one of Perrault's shoes. Francois looked at his dogs unhappily. "Ah, my friends," he said softly, "perhaps those bites will make you ill. What do you think, Perrault?" Perrault said nothing. They still had 600 kilometers to travel, and he hoped very much that his sledge dogs had not caught rabies from the Indian dogs. The harness was torn and damaged. It was 2 hours before they were moving, traveling slowly and painfully over the most difficult country that they had been in. The 30-mile river was not frozen. It ran too fast to freeze. They spent 6 days trying to find a place to cross. Every step was dangerous for dogs and men. 12 times, they found ice bridges across the river, but walked carefully onto them, holding a long piece of wood. And 12 times he fell through a bridge and was saved by the piece of wood, which caught on the sides of the hole. But the temperature was 45 degrees below zero, and each time Perrault fell into the water, he had to light a fire to dry and warm himself. Once the sledge fell through the ice, and with Dave and Buck, they were covered in ice by the time Perrault and Francois pulled them out of the river. Again, a fight was needed to save them. Another time, Spitz and the dogs in front fell through the ice. The Buck and Dave and Francois at the sledge had to pull backwards. That day they traveled only 400 meters. When they got to the Hutalinqua and Good Ice, the Buck and the other dogs were very tired, but they were late, so Perrault made them run faster. In 3 days, they went 180 kilometers and reached the Five Fingers. The other dogs had hurt feet from years of pulling sledge, but Buck's feet were still soft from his easy life down south. All day he ran painfully, and when they camped for the night, he lay down like a dead dog. He was hungry, but he was too tired to walk to the fish. So Francois brought it to him. One day, Francois made 4 little shoes for him. This made Buck much more comfortable. Francois forgot the shoes one morning. Buck refused to move. He lay on his back with his feet in the air until Francois put the shoes on. Later his feet grew harder and the shoes were not needed. One morning at the Pelly River, a dog called Dolly went suddenly mad. She howled long and loud like a wolf and then jumped at Buck. Buck ran with Dolly one step behind him. She couldn't catch him, but he could not escape from her. They ran half a kilometer and then Buck heard Francois call to him. He turned and ran towards the man, sure that Francois would save him. Francois stood holding his axe. As Buck passed, the axe crashed down on Dolly's head. Buck fell down by the sledge, too tired to move. Immediately, Speech attacked him and beat his helpless enemy twice, as hard as he could, but Francois saw this and gave Speech a terrible beating for it. He's a wild dog, that Speech said Pero one day he will kill Buck. Buck is wilder, replied. I've been watching him. One day he'll get very angry and he'll fight Speech and he will win. Francois was right. Buck wanted to be lead dog. Speech knew this and hated him. Buck started to help the other dogs when Speech punished them for being lazy. One morning, Pike refused to get up. Speech looked for him everywhere. When he found him, he jumped at him. But suddenly, Buck attacked Speech. The other dogs saw this, and it became more and more difficult for Speech to lead them. But the days passed without a chance for a fight, and soon they were pulling into Dawson City on a cold, gray afternoon. They stayed in Dawson for 7 days. When they left, Pero was carrying some more very important paper, and he wanted to travel back as fast as possible. They traveled 80 kilometers the first day, and the same the second, but it was difficult work for Francois. Buck and Speech hated each other, and the other dogs were not afraid of Speech anymore. One night, Pike stole half a fish from Speech and ate it, standing next to Buck. And every time Buck went near Speech, he growled and the hair on his back stood up angrily. The other dogs fought in their harnesses and Francois often had to stop the sledge. He knew that Buck was the problem, but Buck was too clever for him. Francois never saw him actually starting a fight. One night in camp, the dogs saw a snow rabbit, and in a second they were all chasing it, with Speech in front. Nearby was another camp, with 50 dogs, who also joined the chase. The rabbit was running fast on top of the snow, but the snow was soft, and it was more difficult for the dogs. When Speech caught the rabbit, throwing it in the air with his teeth, Buck was just behind. Speech stopped, and Buck hit him very hard. The two dogs fell in the snow. Speech beat Buck very quickly twice, then jumped away, watching carefully. The time had come, and Buck knew that either he or Speech must die. They watched one another, circling slowly. The moon was shining brightly on the snow, and in the cold, still air, not a leaf moved on the trees. The other dogs finished eating the rabbit, and then turned to watch. Speech was a good fighter. He was full of hate and anger, but he was also intelligent. Every time Buck tried to bite his throat, he met Speech's own teeth. Then each time Buck attacked, Speech moved and bit him on the side as he passed. After a few minutes, the Buck was covered in blood. He attacked again, but this time turned at the last minute and went under Speech, biting his left front leg. The bone broke, and Speech was standing on 3 legs. Buck tried to knock Spitz down, and then repeated his earlier attack, and broke Spitz's right front leg. There was no hope for Spitz now. Buck got ready for his final attack, while the circle of 60 dogs watched, crowded nearer and nearer, waiting for the end. At last Buck jumped in and out. Spitz went down in the snow. A second later, the waiting pack was on top of him. Spitz had disappeared. Buck stood and watched. The wild animal had made its kill. The end.